I'm Gloria Maggio. Welcome to Pitt Community College's English as a Second Language program. Joining us this morning is Mr. Jerry Jones of the Career Readiness Certificate Program, or CRC. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And a CRC just might help you find a job or get a better job. So what exactly is the CRC?
Well, as you stated, CRC stands for Career Readiness Certificate. But what it is a third-party independent verification of an individual's work skills. And they can take this certificate to an employer or potential employer, and they can show that they have the skills necessary to get the job done.
And I think you just answered my next question, which is why would someone want to take this test?
And that's exactly it. It's a test that, even though it's administered through the community college, it is not something that we have designed or created, but it's something that comes from ACT, and many of you may be familiar with that through high school testing of students for college. So employers recognize that this is something that has been proven. It has an excellent track record, and again, it's a third party, so it's not something that individuals can sort of tamper with, if you would, but it speaks to their qualifications, their skills, and what their abilities could be.
So I imagine that would be part of the benefits of this being a nationally recognized program.
Absolutely. You can go anywhere in the U.S. and someone will know about the CRC. And so it is recognized, it's transferable. You take it with you as the individual who takes that assessment, and you own those scores. They are your scores. So whether you go to, let's say, employer A, or you change and you want to go to employer B, a better opportunity maybe, then you're taking those scores with you. They belong to you.
Okay. Can anyone take it regardless of their prior level of education?
They can. We have what is called a Career Readiness 101, which is a software tool that we encourage individuals to take to help them prepare for the CRC assessment itself. And so even if they were not at the level they wanted to be initially, by working with that software tool, they can eventually get there and make themselves ready for that assessment.
Do I need a social security number or a tax ID to take this test?
Not to take the test, but you will need a government issue ID, picture ID, so we can verify who you are, and that's sufficient for being able to take the test.
So would that count for a community college ID?
We need probably just a little bit more than that along with that. Then that's why, I emphasize government issue.
Let's say I decide to take the CRC, or my employer sends me to take it. How do I study for the test? Is that what you were telling us about signing up for the...
Correct. The first step is that you would look to see when we have an open lab or a CRC open lab. You could come into any of the open labs as often as you want to, but you actually have to come at least the first time, and that will give you, there we have an instructor to give you more information, to answer any questions that you have about the CRC, but also to give you a username, a password that will give you access to the CR 101 or Career Ready 101, which is again the software tool that you need in order to prepare for it.
Okay, after you've prepared for it and we sit down to take the test, how long does the test take?
Well, each test, and there are 3 of them for the CRC. So when we talk about the CRC, we're talking about applied math assessment, reading for information assessment, locating information assessment. So each one of those will take about 55 minutes, but you also have to allow a little administrative time to set individuals up. So I usually round it off to about an hour, hour and 5 minutes for each test. So collectively, a little better than 3 hours.
Okay. Now you mentioned 3 skill sets that are on the test. Do different employers look for certain things when they send people to take the test?
Excellent question. And the short answer is yes. But those 3 work keys, and I'm throwing that word out, are individual assessments that cover 90% of the job openings that you would find, whether it's in manufacturing or what have you. But individual employers will have, some of them did a profile or had a profile perform on that job where they have measured the skill level for that particular job, and so they have set certain skill levels to it. There are two ways to sort of look at this as it relates to an employer. One is the job, or has the job rather, been profiled? If so, it will have specific skill level numbers that coincides with performing that job. The second is, if it's not profiled, it may just be preferred. And what that says is an individual can go into that place of employment and they can say, I have a CRC, versus someone coming in having, again, comparable skills, but not having taken the CRC. They prefer someone who has that CRC.
So, if I understand you correctly, this is sort of standardizing everything. If I have a degree from a certain university, it doesn't assure necessarily that I have the skills that a company is looking for.
Exactly, because again, what the company needs to, or what they're trying to do, hiring people is a cost. It takes time, it takes money. So they're trying as best they can to figure out who's going to be the best fit. And now there is a tool, if you would, or there is a system in place that helps take some of that guesswork out, called the CRC. So that when you show up and you have a CRC, they can look at your work skill level and see if that is a good fit for them, versus even if it's not the exact fit, if it's close enough, they know how close you're coming, and they can tell you, perhaps go back, work on the bringing this particular assessment or skill level up so that you would be more qualified for the job.
Okay, next question. I bet you've had this before too. Is that once I take the test and I get great scores on it, do you find me a job?
I have heard that question before, and no, we're not a job placement agency. But one of the benefits we do have working with the different industries and the different companies through the continuing education and business and industry department is that they will send us job posting many times for certain positions. And what we will do is put that on our blog, and we will also send it out directly to those individuals who are in our CRC database, and that's everyone who has taken a CRC here at Pitt Community College. So we try to close that gap between an employer who's looking for a good employee and a potential individual who is searching for a good place of employment, and try to meet those two together. And that's just one way that we do it. Another way is by directing individuals to something called the North Carolina Regional or Eastern Region. For us here at PCC, Pitt Community College, we can only deal with jobs and industry within our county. But the North Carolina Eastern Region can cut across 13 counties. So it opens up that individual for a much broader, if you would, look at potential jobs.
Well, it sounds like taking the test or getting the certificate can actually increase your chances of getting a good job.
Absolutely. I truly believe that it does. We're having more and more industries locally come on board, and they are utilizing the CRC in one of several ways, whether that is helping with their selection process for hiring, or perhaps even for promotion, or for educating and advancing their individuals. They're using the CRC more and more.
Okay, what if, hypothetically, by some small chance, I take the test and I either fail it or I don't do as well as I had hoped? What do I do?
And that does happen. The good news is, with the Career Ready 101, which is the software tool that I mentioned, part of the job of that particular tool is to help prepare you for the assessment. So once you have engaged in that particular tool, there's something called a pre-test that you take to measure where you are at that moment. And based on where you are, there's a recommendation from the system that says maybe you need to start at this level. And so what you're able to do with that particular tool is to skill up or to increase your knowledge as it relates to that discipline, whether it's math or whether it's reading or whether it's locating information. And so the more time that you can spend in or with that tool, the better off you are to prepare yourself for the assessment and also for increasing your knowledge as it relates to that area.
Okay, so let's say that I've decided to come and sign up and study for the classes and then take the test. Yay! What's the first thing I need to do?
The first thing you need to do is simply either go to our website for Pitt Community College, and under CRC there's an icon, and then under there you can look at the schedule. But find when we are having an open lab, and the good news is we try to have an open lab at least once Monday through Friday, and for those who are working during the 8 to 5 hours, we try to have some open labs at night. Not many we have at that time, but a few. But come into the open lab. The open lab is free. You don't have to make an appointment. You just walk in. We recommend for new individuals who have never come before that you come closer towards that beginning of that hour, because there's an instructor there, and that individual will take you through what the CRC is all about, answer any questions that a person may have, and also get them started on that software tool that I talked about, Career Ready 101. So that is the very first step. Just come to an open lab.
You just reminded me of something. Is the test free also?
Okay. Unfortunately, the test itself is not free. The standard cost for the test, and remember there are 3 actual tests or assessments, is usually $10 for those 3 that make up the CRC. From time to time, we do get grant funds in. When we do, we use those to either offset the cost, or in some cases, we have been able to, for a short window of time, offer free testing for those who qualify during that particular time. But it's all contingent on whether or not we have funds available, and then what are the requirements that individuals have to meet in order to be eligible. But if not, then again, typically for locating, for reading, for math, is $10 each for a total of $30. But I also need to say that those 3 assessments, which make up the CRC, are not always the only assessment that an employer will require from an individual. So some employers have, again, profiled the job, and they have said, well, yes, you need a math score at this level, a reading score at this level, a locate score at this level. But because of the job, you also need an additional work keys assessment, and it may be applied tech, it may be working or workplace observation. And those 2 usually cost a little bit more, and they tend to be a little bit more involved. So you want to prepare a little bit more for those, because again, it's going to that next level.
But you can still steer us in the right direction, even if the employer does say, well, I need this additional work key test or something.
Absolutely. And in some cases, if you have your CRC already and you're talking with that employer, in some cases they are willing to pick up the cost of that 4th assessment.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you for being with us, Jerry Jones.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak about CRC.
And go and take the CRC test if you get a chance, or study for it. They will steer you in the right direction too. I'm Gloria Maggio for Pitt Community College's English as a Second Language program.